You're listening to the Paranormal UK radio network, the best in paranormal talk radio in the UK and around the world.
Hello and welcome everybody to Transdimensional Realities. I'm your host, Milyssa Lee, and here we talk about all things strange and weird and wonderful that is all part of our reality, even if we don't realize it. This is our first show of 2026, and I'm really excited. This is our third show, and we've got a lot of great guests already lined up for the next couple of months. I'm going to try to be doing a weekly show here. It will come out on Thursdays, both on our podcast station, Paranormal UK Radio Network, or paukradio.com. So I figured, being the first show of the new year, let's get down to basics. When you think paranormal, what do you think of? Ghosts. And I have been a paranormal investigator for over 20 years. I've seen and done a lot. I've experienced a lot of weird things. And it's always been a fascinating subject to me, trying to figure out not only what happens to us when we die, but also what are we experiencing right now? People sometimes think of ghosts doing things, and I think it's sometimes a lot more complex than that. So in any case, we have a great couple of guests lined up for tonight, both paranormal investigators. We have Regina Blatt from PPF Investigations, and we have Lee Pig, who is part of the Medics for Paranormal group. So welcome both Regina and Lee to the program. Hi, how are you guys?
Hi, thanks for having us.
Hi, thank you.
Well, you both are paranormal investigators. So if you could tell us a little bit about your group, how long you've been investigating, and then we'll start talking about some really fun stuff. So Regina, why don't you go first?
Okay, my name is Regina. My team is called PPF Investigations, which is Pursuing Paranormal Facts. And there's a story behind that, which we can get into if you want. I am going on my 15th year of being a paranormal investigator. I have always seen things and experienced things as a child. And as an adult, I came to learn that I have empathic powers, and I know everybody's is different. I can actually sense and feel emotions of the living and the dead, so that does help me when I'm doing paranormal investigations. But yeah, I got into the field because just about 15 years ago, probably maybe going on 16 years ago, my sister committed suicide, and she started coming to me in dreams.
I am so sorry to hear that.
Thank you. 3 years after that, my father passed away from lung cancer, and he started visiting me too. And I thought to myself, there's more to this life than this physical body. And I started my journey on trying to find answers.
Wow. We're going to have to talk about those two events.
Yes, for
because
sure.
I've had some experiences too. Lee, what about yourself?
I've been investigating for right at a 10-year mark. Need to look up the exact date, but it's right at 10 years. As a child growing up, I grew up, I don't think the house was haunted per se, but I think the land was, because the whole street, there was like a rumor about every third or fourth house, we were told, okay, don't go there. That house is haunted. That house is haunted. And then things started happening in my home. Well, as I grew into an adult and started pursuing EMS, actually, I started getting into the investigation side of it a little bit more, trying to find out the where and the why, if at all possible. And just like Regina said, there had to be more out there than what we actually see. So during that, my first job as an EMT, my partner on that I worked with, she had done it before, so we kind of joined forces for a little while, and we investigated for several years, and then we parted ways. But in the meantime, like Regina also said, I discovered that I do have some empathic ability as well. Not like her, I don't so much sense emotion as much, but I can, and I feel confident enough to say about 100% of the time can tell if something's in the room with us and where that person or entity is.
Mm-hmm.
So then I joined up with Regina, and I got to tell you right now, just to start, that's been the best thing ever happened to me right there, as far as an investigator. But that's
Awesome.
what I started into it. My team, by the way, Medics for Paranormal. We were all emergency medical services personnel, trying to incorporate work into the, taking care of the living and the dead, if you will. And then, like I said, I joined up with Regina, and I kind of feel like that I'm almost a part of her team. Just
You are.
and could not be more proud of her.
That's awesome. Well, the team that you run, Regina, is mostly a female team, isn't it?
We are an all-female team, but we're a small team. So we do pair up with other paranormal teams a lot. And, Lee, since we met, he has always been invited and has attended almost everything that we have been on. So, and I wouldn't think of doing any investigations without him, moving forward.
Thanks.
We just have a really, really special bond, and it's really interesting and different for both of us because we've never experienced that before. But I think being empathic, we always call it like a spiritual umbilical cord. It's
Mhm.
like when we're together, it just amps it up even more.
Fantastic. Um, so let's talk about the paranormal in general. Okay. We've gone through for the last 20 years, and I've been investigating longer than that, the plethora of ghost shows, ghost investigation shows, everything from ghost hunters to ghost adventures to little God knows everything else. And most of the shows, I'm just going to say, are crap. And it's just my opinion. Although I will say Ghost Adventures, for just all the issues they have, it's still my guilty pleasure. Because I think,
I love Gak. Like, I will be a Gak fan forever. I don't care how many people hate Zach. I love him. And you have to give the man credit for 27 seasons on TV. Can't fake all of it.
Oh, he's a
yeah,
great entertainer, but anybody that can get that much evidence in one night, no.
Well, they're there for 3 or 4 nights. So
But
it's
like
not.
you said, they're great. They're great entertainers.
they are. And I will say this, it's one of the few shows that I think really shows legitimate evidence that they capture. I don't always agree with their interpretations of that evidence, but they are capturing and experiencing things.
And people
So,
have to remember too, it is TV, and then they go over and above, they get really scared, and it may not be that scary, but that's entertainment. That's part of it.
yeah, well, I
Not
was on
saying
it.
it's right, but I'm just saying it's part.
Right, right. Well, I was on one of the shows many years ago, and that was a horrible experience
Oh.
because of the producers misrepresenting evidence, cutting things to make things look like they happened differently, abusing my my clients. So yeah, I'm not a real big fan of production companies.
Mm.
So I should make my own. Anyway, so so ghost investigations, paranormal investigations, they really have taken off because of, I think, a lot of these shows. Although there are a lot of teams that have go back for decades investigating. What would you say is one of your most fascinating things about investigating the paranormal? What really gets you excited?
I just think, like, let me back up and say that ghost hunting is not what you see on TV, as we all know. It's sitting in the dark for many, many 8, 12 hours and getting absolutely nothing. But that one time, that one time when you hit something and you get a voice or it answers, and it is amazing. And that's what keeps most of us going into this field. I was over a location, ran the ghost hunting tours for 7 years at it's one of the oldest opera houses in the South. And we just got amazing evidence out of their names and voices and footsteps, to where I could take the evidence and go back to the historian and match it up. And those are the types of things that excite me in this field. It's like the spirit is giving us the information, and here I can coordinate it with a historian to make sure that it's real. And I even had the owners, I'd come to them with different things that spirit gave us, and they're like, how did you know that? Nobody knows that. It's like spirit gave it to me. Like, we're hearing the same things over and over. They're trying to communicate. But I to answer your question, I think it's that one clear answer. It's that one clear EVP. It's that one clear, even if it's a yes, no, that is like so amazing. Or if you get a message from a loved one that is just for you, which I have gotten those too. It's just, those are the things that keep me going. And it's not all what Hollywood makes it out to be. It's not all, we're breaking out Ouija boards and things are flying all over the place and all that kind of stuff. It's not that. I always set out to show and prove that there is a lighter, loving side to this than what we see on TV.
Well, that's the problem with these television shows, is fear sells.
Yes.
And if you can make people afraid or freaked out, they'll stay tuned in. So that's the problem with most of these shows. That's why even with Ghost Adventures, they look at a lot of things from a negative standpoint, because that's what keeps people tuning in to see the freaky stuff.
Right.
And of course, I'm sorry.
Almost 15 years, I've never come across a demon. Now, I don't put myself into situations where I know there possibly might be one, but I'm not going out there and claiming, oh, that's a demon, that's a growl, that's a
Yeah, I understand. Lee, what about you?
Well, one of the things that I really love about it is the history of it. A lot of these locations that we go to, there's so much history or so much blood soaked, to kind of keep it alive, keep people aware of what was here before all of us. Somebody had told me when I first started investigating, they said, pay attention to everything around you. You're going to see a lot more, not, and that right there just kind of hung true with me. And it's the truth. For example, and this is kind of the best example I can give of what I was talking about. I was vacationing down in Florida at a beach, and it was an old Civil War fort, and we were camping out. And we went to investigate one of the old metal batteries that the soldiers had used to protect the coastline back during the war days. Me and my friend, we walked into this room, and it was an all metal room. And I said, "We're not in here by ourselves." And she's like, "Really?" I'm like, "Yeah, we're not." We pulled out my phone, and I did just a quick burst EVP session. Very first question I asked, I got a response, and it was loud enough and it was powerful enough you could hear it reverberating off the wall. And I wish I had it loaded up here now, but it was just a clear, very Regina's heard it. Is just said yes, and and I told my friend, I said, yeah, I said there was people here before, and they're still here. So I think the history of it's really what keeps me going, because I mean, I walk into a building, I can walk into Walmart and just wonder what's in there. I'm so sorry about the smoke detector in the next room.
I don't hear it.
Good, because I'm embarrassed right now.
No, we don't hear it at all. So
Okay, well,
no
good,
worries.
good. So good. The other night when I was at the hospital working, I had came out to the ambulance, and I was outside of the ambulance bay, and I was standing there just talking to my partner, and there's two sets of doors. One of them is just a regular door lock, or just like I got a keypad to get in. And all of a sudden, the inside door opened up, and then the outside door opened up from the inside. I said, "Do you see that?" I said, "Somebody just walked out." They're like, "What do you mean?" I said, "Somebody just walked out." He says, "I didn't see anybody." I said, "Exactly." And like I said, the history of it. I'm sorry, you got to tell me to quit talking. I love to talk.
No, that's what the show is for. That's why we're here, to talk about these things. And I love these types of stories that, so many things happen. Part of the reason I named the show what it is because all of these things are part of our reality. And yet mainstream science and media and everybody else
Hollywood.
only look at it as a novelty if they believe in it at all. And But the truth is, there's so much more going out there that we don't understand, that's right underneath the surface, but yet is still there with us.
Mhm.
And that's what fascinates me the most about the paranormal, because there's just so much to learn and experience if you're open to it.
Mhm. I would agree.
I completely
I would
agree.
agree.
Regina, I wanted to ask you about when your sister passed
Mhm.
and your father, the experiences of being visited. Could you talk a little bit about that?
Sure. They both visit me quite often. Not so as the years go on, it kind of is less and less. That's that my belief is they feel like I don't really need them anymore. But I'd love to have them around. But I had a very, very vivid dream when my sister first came to me. We were in a room. There was a bed with someone in it. You could see the form of the body, and my sister was sitting on the edge of the bed, like caretaking. And she was a surgical tech, so she was in the medical field. So that wouldn't have been too off color for her to be, assisting someone.
Hmm.
Um, and she saw me, and she got up and came to me, and she didn't speak verbally. She spoke to me in my mind.
Hmm.
And I said to her, "Are you okay?" And she was glowing just in white and blonde hair and big blue eyes and just beautiful, just beautiful. And, I said to her, "Are you okay?" And she said back into my mind, she's like, "Yes, are you okay?" And that just has stuck with me my whole life moving forward without her. It's like, I know she's okay. I know where she is. She's fine. And now it's okay for me to be okay with that.
Hmm.
She's here. She'll visit me. She'll give me little clues and hints that she's around. Um, she was a big the Cure fan.
Hmm.
Musical band The Cure. So about 2 years after she had passed, I was in a department store during Christmas time, and they, of course, we're playing Christmas music, and all of a sudden it stops. One of her favorite Cure songs came on, played, and then went right back to Christmas music. And I'm like, that is such an extreme difference in music. I'm like, okay, I got you. So, they do give me little signs and symbols. My dad passed away from lung cancer, and he has visited me and told me that he's okay. Actually, my best friend and I were out at the Stanley Hotel in Estes, Colorado, where Stephen King wrote The Shining, for our very, very first ghost hunt. And he was in hospice by then, but his wife said he'd want you to go on the trip, so go ahead and go. And I did. And there just happened to be a medium out there. So I went and had a session with her, and she said, there's a man coming through. He's like your father, but not like your father. And we didn't have that close of a relationship until the end. There's a lot had happened. So she said, he's like your father, but not your father. So I immediately understood that, and immediately knew that he had already passed. And of course he said he was sorry for the things that he's done, and he will be with me, and he will protect me, and he will always be by my side. So it's death is something that we all have to deal with, but I think it's easier to understand if you know that they're still with us, and they're always watching over us, and they're, standing by us, and you could feel them and you could sense them, and they give you signs. And I think it's just a wonderful thing. And that's what got me into this. It's like, if I could help somebody feel that way, let them know that their family's still here, and proof, because like Lee said, with every ghost, there's a story. With every location, there's a story. And if we can tell that side of it, and not be like, oh, there's a demon here. That's what keeps me going and keeps me wanting to ghost hunt, is showing, like I said earlier, the lighter, softer side, the loving side.
What about you, Lee? Have you ever had an experience like that of a past loved one?
I have actually, for the past year, up until this past August, I was battling cancer.
Mm.
Right after I was diagnosed, there was only one cousin that I had. Her name was Janice. She battled cancer for 14 years before she finally passed away to it. Um, she was like a beacon of light. I mean, she was like a rock. You know, she never let it get her down emotionally. Of course, it did physically, but she never lost her smile or her sense of humor or anything like that. So after I found out what I was dealing with, I just told her out loud, you know, God, I wish you were here. I got so many questions. And I don't remember if it was that night or if it was a night or two later. She came to me in a dream, her and my grandmother. I'm standing in a parking garage, and all of a sudden, come around the corner, come flying around the corner was this little Toyota Corolla. I don't know where this car came from, but my cousin Janice was driving it. My grandma was in the passenger seat. They pulled it beside of me. She got out. My grandma did. She come over there and gave me a big hug. And I told her, I said, I have missed you since you've left. And I said, let's go see Janice. I ain't seen her either, you know, since she died. And we walked over there, and she just had the most beautiful smile. Just I've never seen anybody look more happy and more at peace. And when I woke up, I still felt that. I still felt the love. I still felt every emotion that I felt in that dream. And I have no doubt that they came to me to say, hey, you know what? You're going to be okay. And another experience that I had that I found kind of odd, my father passed away 9 years ago. It would be 10 years in May. And during the whole cancer battle, I asked him, I said, are you really there for me? And I'm not kidding. This is the very same day. My iPhone, and when it comes to phones, it's technology, and I know it. But it popped up with a memory of pictures of my dad, all of my dad. And like I said, he'd been gone for 9 years. And for that one particular day, for that memory production to come on is when I needed it most. So, and I have no doubt that my family was there with me through the entire cancer.
Wow. I'm getting a little emotional because I've had the same experience. I had a twin brother who had died of a heart attack 10 years ago. And it was funny. It took a couple of months, and then all of a sudden, I had a vivid dream where I found myself in just this white, it looked like a bathroom with all white subway tile, but there was no urinals or stalls, just some columns, but it was all white. And I just turned, and there was my brother standing there smiling at me. Now, it's like what Lee mentioned. You would think that, right away you would like, oh, hug him or, be all excited or whatever. My brother and I had a very interesting, close relationship. This shows you what our relationship was like. I just turned, looked at him with a smirk, and I said, "It's about fucking time you showed up."
Right.
Yeah.
But then I know we had a conversation. I can't remember it. And then he's appeared a couple of times since, but although it's been a very long time. I also lost my spouse 3 years ago, and they've appeared in my dreams a couple of times very vividly, and I still don't get visitations. I think they've gone off to do something else and said, "You're on your own." But yeah, I totally get the experience. It's wonderful when it happens.
What's amazing about it, though, you said you don't remember the conversation, but I would be willing to bet you still remember what you felt, the emotion.
Well, yeah, I was overwhelmed with emotion,
Yeah.
but yeah, it's still maybe if I went under hypnosis, maybe I might remember it, but I think it was one of those things where you're supposed to keep it in your subconscious.
Yes.
So, um, so you mentioned, Regina, the first place you were investigating, you know, what other types of things did you experience there?
Well, when we were at the Stanley Hotel, and again, my sister had passed, like at that time, it was probably going on close to 3 years. I actually was there with the Ghost Adventures crew. Believe it or not, it was before they got really, really big and they were doing, hosting ghost investigations. So I was in the room with Aaron Goodwin, and we were doing an EVP session. And I always laugh, and Lee's heard the story a million times. My claim to fame is like I was sitting on the bed with Aaron Goodwin's I was like, oh, it's in the bed of the Aaron Goodwin. But anyway, we had a recorder running that was on the dresser. And after we got done investigating and went home, we actually listened to the recorder. And I got three EVPs that were all the same male voice. And one said my sister's name, which was Nikki. The second one, the first one said, where are they? The second one said my sister's name, Nikki. And then the third one said Nikki's death. And I knew there couldn't be any other explanation but that she was there. Maybe she didn't know how to communicate and she communicated through this person, or this person was maybe her guide. But I knew they were for me. I mean, that's not a Mary or a Wendy or, it was Nikki. It clearly said Nikki. And if you
which
go
is
on our
not
website,
as which is not as popular as the other names.
no. And I actually have those EVPs up on our website if anybody would like to listen to them. But yeah, it was amazing. And I remember me and my friend were like down listening to the recorder, and we heard it and we just popped up and we looked at each other, and I was like, tell me you heard what I heard. And she's like, yes, that said your sister's name. And we were just like, it just like blows your mind when you get an EVP that just is like so clear and so distinctively for you that it's wild. And you're like, yes, thank you, thank you, thank you.
Either for you or intelligent response to a question.
Yes.
Those are always fantastic. Lee, what about you? What first investigation did you do?
The first investigation I ever did was actually at an ambulance service that I worked for. I told you about my friend that I worked with. She had gotten into it. It just so happened that in the ambulance bay, for over a year, there was an ambulance that had been wrecked. And in that accident, they lost a patient and one of the crew members. So we, like I said, it just sat kind of sealed in this one bay area. So we sat there and just trying to get different responses. We never did get anything as far as an EVP or anything like that. But the one thing that I do remember about it was, and this kind of introduced me to the whole empathic side of it, is feeling the emotion that was there. It was so heavy. It was so overwhelmingly heavy. It's almost like somebody took a black shroud and just threw it over my head, and just kind of put me in the blackness. But that was the first investigation that I ever did with anybody else. And as far as evidence, we didn't get a lot. It was just everything in here that I can't validate. It's just what I know that I felt. The first public investigation I ever went on, I did have my voice recorder tossed off of a headstone, and it hit somebody in the foot during the investigation. So that right there was what was really eye-opening. I didn't get it actually flying off on video, but I got the person as it hit their foot, and you could actually hear it slide across the headstone on the voice recorder itself.
Wow.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what got me into it. I moved here to New Jersey going on 26 years ago. And the house I lived in, which was an old 30s converted cabin in a lake community, and there was activity. And it was one of the things where I started to look at not just haunted houses, but things that may be attached to the land, because I know there were a few houses in my neighborhood that had activity. And I was seeing lights. I heard my name being called, and it was fascinating me. I started filming with an old, just regular white light Super VHS camera. I caught multiple things, including this thing I call a flying sock, which looks like a tadpole. In the video, you see this orb go across the screen, go behind a rocking chair across the room, then shoot out. And as it shoots out, it's tadpole shaped, bulbous head to tail, and about this big, and it goes flying right past me into the kitchen. And even though I was mostly watching the screen, I saw my peripheral vision go through there. So I had a local paranormal team come in, investigate. I was hooked, joined them. A few years later, I formed my own group, and I'd been investigating for over 20 years.
Wow.
It's awesome.
Oh. To see something on like your, number one in your house, but number two, like to capture it is amazing too, because how many times all of us have been on investigations and stuff happens and you're just like, damn, I didn't have my camera set up or I didn't have my recorder running. And it just is like, I mean, nobody could take those experiences away from you, but it's like, oh, I didn't capture it.
Well, that would lead into this. What is your preferred method for investigation? When you get a place you're going to investigate, how do you approach it? How many people? What kind of equipment? What works best for you?
Go ahead, Lee.
Well, I mean, depending on how many people, it just depends on the location itself. I mean, I don't want to, have people in there, butt to gut and not be able to actually enjoy the investigation, without wondering, okay, is that contamination? Is that somebody over here passing gas? I mean, you never know. I'm going to keep it kind of under control. As far as the investigation, the equipment, again, it all depends. I've got kind of like a baseline, a few things. Regina makes fun of me because I always overpack the equipment box, but I do definitely want a few REM pods. I like to have some K2s just for other people to use. I love it when other people are hands-on and they actually tell me about their experiences as it's happening, because you never know who the spirit or entity might want to talk to. They may not like me, but they may love Regina. Um, like I said, I mean, it just depends on where we are. I mean, one of my favorite things that I have, and it's a love-hate thing, it's my SLS. I love it, but damn, that thing is heavy. I built it myself, and I was working for the fire department at the time as a paramedic, and it was about 20 degrees outside, and I picked up an overtime shift, and I had just got my last component. I'm like, you know what? I'm going to take this thing with me, and I took it to the fire hall, and that's where I put it together. The captain who was actually there, he said, "Do you mind if I ask what that is?" And I told him what it is, and he says, "That's pretty cool." He says, "I think I've seen one once before. Me and my wife went on an investigation." So he was kind of, drawn into it. So as I powered that thing up at the fire hall, it's on a cinder block wall. That's what it's shining on. And there was a stick figure on that wall. And I asked him, I said, "Cap, I said, do you see what I'm saying?" And he's like, "Yeah, is that?" I said, "There's nothing in there that it could be. It's a blank wall." So he's sitting here, he's like, "Hi." And it would throw an arm up, So we just kind of, just sat there and investigated with that for a little bit. And I'm sorry, I'm going to wrap this up. I know I'm talking a lot, but so anyway, what was really incredible about it, he actually tried to approach the stick figure and poof, it was gone. We didn't find it anymore. So we were looking around the fire hall and never did find it. And I told him, I said, "I've got an idea." I went and got my partner who was female. So I asked her, I said, "Hey, Erica," I said, "come over here. I want to ask you to do me a favor." And she came out and I explained to her what was going on. Well, anyway, there was 3 chairs set up. She was in the middle chair. The captain on the engine, he came out and he sat in the chair. If I was facing him, it would have been to my right. And to the left, there was a stick figure sitting beside of her. It was sitting back, you could tell his leg was crossed and his arm was like this right here. It's like he was out there just relaxing with the best of us. And I've still got that video as well. And that's one of my favorite things that I've ever captured, just because it was, at work. I wasn't expecting that. But that also got me to learn a lot of investigations at the fire halls, and they'll turn up something. Anyway, I'm sorry. Please go ahead, Regina.
Oh, no,
You're fine.
you're fine. No problem. No problem. As far as equipment goes, I personally find when you stick to the basics, I mean, there's lots of good toys out there to play with. Some just kind of are repetitive. I don't trust apps that are on phone or tablets because they can be pre-programmed. They're for entertainment purposes only. I like a REM pod. I like I have tri-field meters. But you know what? Just a good night vision camera, still camera, and a digital recorder. That's all you really need. And trust me, people, when you see these shows where they have like multiple cameras set up, they got maybe 8 cameras set up in a location. The one thing they never really show you in this is if each of those cameras ran for like 6 hours, you have to watch 6 hours of footage from every single camera.
Yep.
And it
Yes,
is boring, boring, boring. But you hope for that one instant you capture something that's exciting.
exactly.
Right. That's the hardest part that people don't understand is the evidence review, and especially with the TV shows, it's like, oh, that's all they got when they were there. And it's like, well, yeah, but they had 8 hours, 10 cameras, 8 hours each of footage that they had to roll through. It's a
Yes.
lot.
Yep. It's that's the thing about investigation people don't understand. The dedication it takes. It's not just going out and hoping you have some experiences because a lot of times you won't, but then maybe you will capture something on your equipment later. And I find EVPs are one of the things that fascinate me the most. I
Yes.
mean, whether they're intelligent or not, it's just to get a human voice that is not coming from anywhere. It's a digital recorder is not picking up radio waves. I used to have a mechanical engineer on my team, so he used to always go through and explain it like, nope, that can't happen. Um, and I've heard I've been cussed out. One time I got called a son of a bitch. Um, I've got men, women, other voices. The other thing is, tell me your opinion on this. And a lot of the shows, especially old ghost hunters and even present day ghost adventures, they use those old Sony recorders that drive me crazy because they're so staticky and garbled. And yet I think they use them because they think they're getting more EVPs. And most of the time when they're playing it, I hear garbage. If I want an EVP, I want it to be crystal clear, or even if it's faint. I mean, I don't know. What's your opinion?
You know, we see them use all different kinds of voice recorders, and I think it's just where the level, the vibration, and the voice falls within those parameters. Because I've had some class A EVPs that are crystal clear. There's no denying it. What it's saying, and then you get some that are mumbled and jarbled, and you know the voice is not anybody that was in the room, especially with me, like being an all-female team where we get male voices. I mean, there's nobody in the room faking a man's voice. um, I think, and again, it could be, and we won't know until we're over there, but um, maybe it's the age of the spirit, maybe it's the intelligent of the spirit. um, maybe some can come through easier than others can come through. Some don't know how to come through yet, it just becomes a muffled. But again, how do you explain a spirit who doesn't have a voice box to be talking?
Especially when you're right there and you don't hear it, but the electronic device picks it up.
Yes.
And that's the one thing that always fascinates me. Is it because of a different range of frequency that it's able to pick up and we can't hear it? But then when you're playing it back, you technically we wouldn't be able to hear it either if it was a different frequency.
But is it kind of like the light spectrum too? Like, we see these cameras that can detect different light spectrums, and you see it on the camera, but you don't see it with your own eyes because we can't see that spectrum of light.
Right.
Is the sound and the voice waves the same? That some
That's
we can hear and some we can't.
that would be something that I would really like an engineer uh, to talk about recorders and if they could do pick up more on those spectrums than what we hear. And if it does pick something up, can it play it back in a way that we can hear it? I
Right.
mean, that seems to be the case, but I'd like to know because if that doesn't happen, then there's a definite different phenomenon going on that we
Right.
can't explain.
One thing I would like to touch on, if you don't mind, you were talking about picking up human voices. Anybody that watches your show, I would love for them to pay attention on non-human voices. And when I say that, I don't mean go dark or anything like that. But one of my favorite EVPs I've ever captured, and I want your opinion on this as well. Regina's heard it. It was at a old plantation called Rosemont, and they were famous for thoroughbred horses. They would breed thoroughbred horses. I don't know if you're familiar with the Kentucky Derby winners, but they breeded Secretarian.
Okay.
And there had not been a horse on this property in well over 20 years. The town grew up around it because, the land got smaller and smaller. They kept selling it up, piece by piece. Held an investigation there one night, and I was in the office of the guy that owned it, and clear as day, and you could hear it on one of my video cameras, as well as the voice recorder, a big horse whinny, and it sounded like it was just like right outside, and I played that. We were actually doing a public event, and everybody's like, "Was that a horse?" I'm like, "Sounded like a horse. Let's rewind it." So we played it back a couple of times, and it was clear as day. So, I mean, I'm sure that it was probably, residual, probably just because of the whole property itself. But the fact that I caught a horse and, that it was on that property at one point in history, I don't know. I just love that. What do you think about like animal voices and such?
Well, I think this is going to lead into something else, but what I think we're dealing with in cases like that, even sometimes with the human EVPs we capture, may not necessarily be a spirit. I've been really doing a lot of research lately into time slips and overlapping times in period, because there's the theory that all time is really happening at once. It's not linear. So conditions can sometimes be right for something from another time come through. Perfect example, I was investigating an old grist mill here in New Jersey called the Red Mill. It's a big museum, and right next door was a rock quarry um, that went back into the 1800s. And we caught so much evidence at this museum. It was incredible. But one thing was interesting is on my video camera I had up on the fourth floor, it's me in front of the camera. You can see me talking, and all of a sudden, there's this loud boom, this explosion. I didn't hear it. It came up on the camera. And then when I was reviewing it, I realized they had a dynamite shack they used to blast. And I think that's what I caught. It wasn't anything in the nearby town, not a car backfiring. It had that deep resonance of an explosion. And some people call that residual, and I'm beginning to have different ideas on residual these days. Some people talk about the stone tape theory, that what's in the ground, crystal, granite, running water, whatever, collects energy and repeats it. And I don't know, just my opinion, you can tell me your thoughts on it, is it's not like that. It's really a past event happening in real time that bleeds through into our time.
Right. I mean, I can see that. Would it fall along the same lines as reincarnation? Like you've lived another life and yet you're coming across the same people and the same spiritual soul family, and you're just on a different dimension now than you were before, and do those ever overlap, and that's why you're meeting the same people? Like are we just in layers?
I don't know. Sometimes it makes my head hurt thinking about it, but well, another example just for this theory, and then we'll move on, is my friend in the UK, Irene, and she's very, very sensitive. And one time she was touring a house they were looking to buy, and she went upstairs by herself, opened up the door of the room, and there is this woman in Edwardian period maid clothing, servant's clothing, working. And when she opened the door, that person looked at her, they locked eyes, both of their jaws dropped open in surprise, and then the woman vanished. So, what would be more logical, if you're going to use Occam's razor here, that some people would say it's a spirit of a servant who died. They don't know they died and they're going about doing their business or whatever. Or was it a momentary slip in time and dimensions where two very much living, breathing human beings actually saw each other for a brief moment and before the phenomenon went away?
Me reminded of another experience I had with my old partner, and I, I know I'm long on telling stories. I don't want to bring that up, but you just brought that up.
Like, I think it's possible. I do truly believe that it is possible.
Well, there's so much we don't know. I keep learning after all these years. I keep learning, so I know that's something we all do. Um, so let's talk about things that you've experienced. What or certain investigations. What is your favorite either location, experience? What has really made you go, wow?
So many, like after so many years, there's so many. Obviously the Stanley Hotel was a wow moment for me to actually get that personalized message. I was at the Limp Mansion in St. Louis, and that was the first time I ever heard my name come over on a spirit box, clear as
Hmm.
day, said Regina. I mean, that was like a wow moment. Wow, they know that I'm here. Like these ones can actually interact and see me. It's not, um, just on a repeat or residual or whatever you want to call it. Wow. I mean, I've had experiences where I've been touched. I've had experiences where I've only heard something in my ear and nobody else has. I mean, there's just I can't nail down just one because there's so many after so many years. But also like working with a historian and validating that the spirit that we're speaking with was an actual person. That's pretty amazing as well.
Sure. What about you, Lee?
One of the first investigations I did with Regina was actually at the Wash Show out in Virginia City, Nevada.
Hmm.
Uh, like I said, I met her just a couple of times at a public event that they allowed us to have at their facility. So I didn't know really anything about her. I mean, I thought, well, this woman's kind of hateful. I don't know if she likes me or not. I was kind of towing a line around her. So anyway, we started investigating, and in the old Wash Show Club, we were in one of the ladies of the night. That's what they prefer to be called. In the office, Miss Julia. So we're in there, and I'm trying to elicit a response, and this whole moment was the wow factor. I'm trying to elicit a response. I'm in there calling out to Miss Julia, saying that I would like to, set up some ladies of the night for the night. Regina looks at me, and what I remember so much, it wasn't Regina, but I mean, it was her body, her physical body, looked at me and almost a different voice said, "You're lying." I said, "What?" And she said, "You are lying." She turned toward me and started getting borderline aggressive. And her teammates and one of my teammates, they kind of, just got her out of that room. And we got out, and Regina's like, "Hi, what happened?" And that was kind of like a wow factor. But what was wow about it is because what I have no doubt that I was talking to Miss Julia, and because it definitely wasn't Regina. And that is when I saw Regina as much more than just an investigator and a friend. It's like a connection was made.
Well, Regina, have you ever channeled like that before?
One other time before that, I was at St. Albans in Radford, Virginia. It was an insane asylum, and there was three of us that went into a room, and it was set up like a school room with a chalkboard and desks. The other two investigators went off to one side, sat down, and were starting a spirit box session. And I was actually at the chalkboard, just kind of doodling, and I could hear them turn on the spirit box and I was in there for 9 minutes and 37 seconds, only because my recorder was running for that long. And it started to sound like I was in a tunnel. And I could hear them, but they kept getting farther and farther away. Um, they said I did not respond to them calling my name. I was just at the chalkboard, just still holding the chalkboard, facing it. And they said I finally turned around and my face was not my face, it was somebody else. and they scooped me up and took me out of the building. And I don't remember, we were on the second floor. I don't remember going down the stairs. I don't remember going outside. All I remember is hearing them, but it kept getting farther and farther away. So I think something was trying to either enter me or had entered me and was trying to take over or channel through me. I don't know. But those are the only two instances where I had something like that happen. And with the one with Lee it was very, very intense feeling like I knew I was there, but I didn't know I was speaking. And all I could think of was he is soliciting, but he's lying because he doesn't have the money to give to me. And that's why I was almost up in his face, like, you're a liar. You are
She was getting
lying.
really aggressive. I'm backing up from her.
Yeah. So only twice. That's enough. I don't really prefer it. It's not something that I look to happen, but it has happened. Now, I do have instances where the more and longer that I investigate, I do start to, over the past few years, get things that just, and only for simple terms, is they just pop in my head. And I've learned to just say them because I think that's a way of them communicating, like, what's your name? And I'll say a name. You know, where are you at? Oh, I'm standing over here. Like, just things just pop into my head, just like answers or things that I wouldn't know about the location pop into my head, and I've just learned to say them out loud. So I don't know if that is a form of channeling. I'm not sure.
I've experienced that though too, and sometimes I look at it as downloaded knowledge. I'll be in a location, a name will come to me. I'm not psychic by any means, but
Right. I don't
I
claim
mean,
to be.
I I have received downloads of information while I'm in places, and I've been able to validate it later.
Right.
So that's again something else that's really fascinating when
I
doing this
think
work.
that certain people, and this is just my opinion, when you go into a location, certain people are like beacons of light to them. They can see them more clearly. The spirits can see us, Lee, you, see us more clearly, know that we're more open to communication than other people, you know, because some people go in there and they're very closed off. And it's like you have to go in my opinion, with an open mind and an open heart. Yes, be protected,
And
but
respectful.
go in with an open mind and an open heart and willing to receive those messages. And we're just like beacons. We're like, oh, let me go over here and talk to these people because I can see them, I can hear them. Where these people I can't, or don't even know that they're there.
Have you either of you ever experimented with um which I have not. I forget what they call it, where they have a person sitting down blindfolded with noise canceling headphones on.
Yes,
Estes
this
method.
method.
Estes method. Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Mhm.
And you have used that?
Yes. We
Mhm.
have. I've actually done it with two people using two separate spirit boxes and getting the same responses.
Mm-hmm.
That was at the
Interesting.
house, wasn't it, Regina?
That was actually at the Old Stone Jail
Okay, because I knew we did
on
it at the
the
house as well.
museum side. Yeah.
Interesting. Interesting. Um, you said that you've never dealt with anything you consider demonic. Um, but have you, what is your most, let's say, intense experience that maybe wasn't that pleasant, maybe not demonic per se, but maybe even, let's say, a pissed off ghost. Have you ever dealt with that?
Well, mine was Miss Julia. I'll revert back to that again. She came through
Yeah.
with Regina. Thought she was going to push me out a window. So that's probably mine.
Okay.
I've come across some nasty people, and again, you have to think if they were not nice in life, then they're not going to be nice in death. We've all obviously all been told to get the fuck out. Lee and I were just on an investigation a few months ago where we had through the spirit box. It was like, shut the fuck up. Like it
Yep.
literally said, shut the fuck
Yeah.
up. Male, and with me and Lee talking, it didn't like us and didn't want us to be there. I've had instances where I've had unwanted touch, and it just is like, don't do that. You're not allowed to. But never anything that I would consider demonic. Just nasty people, not happy people.
Right, right. Um,
Have
how
you?
about
Have you had anything like that? I'm just curious.
me?
Yeah,
Um,
I like
yes.
hearing your stories as well. I really do.
Yes, one of the very first investigations I did with the first team I joined, we investigated a house out on Long Island. And
It wasn't Amityville, was it?
no, no,
Okay, had
no.
to ask.
Long Island is huge, by the
Yes, it
way.
is. I've been there.
The we were I was very skeptical going in because there was something about this guy that just screamed he wanted attention. And so I didn't think anything was going to happen. Well, I started feeling this pressure in my chest and an anxiety that I couldn't explain. And then I went upstairs and the feeling was overwhelming. And it was one of the first times I realized something didn't want me there. Um, I was with a couple of other female members, one of them who was very sensitive, and she was telling me that there was a man who didn't like me, felt threatened by me because he didn't like other men around him, and was trying to get me to leave. And at one point, the one and only time I ever had to leave and go outside, and once I did that, it all evaporated. So then when I went back inside, it started again, but I knew what I was up against. So I kind of was able to put up my defenses, push back a little bit, and say, I'm not going anywhere. So that was a real intense experience. There was another one where I was investigating a house here in Jersey where they said they were experiencing some extreme activity. The mother said she was pushed down the stairs once. Her kids were having horrible nightmares. And we went there just to do a preliminary, me and one other investigator. And as we're there, I had that exact same feeling again. Something was trying to get me to leave. The other investigator got hit by an electric shock that
Oh,
was not static electricity. And it was very, very interesting. So when we finished, we walked out into the driveway to the car to talk a little bit. It followed us outside
Oh
wow.
and
no.
was still trying to get us to leave. So we got in our cars, and as I drove away, then it dissipated. Now, ironically, when we went back with our team, it hit. It wouldn't come out.
Hmm.
So that's the one thing people need to understand too with investigating. These things don't perform on command.
No.
They could lie dormant, don't want to deal with you, and then occasionally come out and do things.
That's exactly
Um,
right. Somebody I work with, they asked me, they says, how do you know that these ghosts are not just sitting around watching TV? You walk in and they're like, oh crap, I got to get up and do some ghost shit now. They're back, you know. I'm like, you know what? And that really got me to thinking exactly what you were talking about. You're right. They're not performers.
Mhm.
They're
I
people.
I also think time works differently for them. They're not like us in this type of consciousness. I think it's almost a type of dream state. Um, they still have a type of consciousness. They can react to things, but I think time moves differently for them. So, one last question I wanted to get out to you. Now, I know you don't investigate private homes. Um,
I have.
Lee does.
Lee
I
does.
Yeah.
Okay. Have you ever investigated old caves or mines?
Yes.
Go ahead, Regina.
Yes, we were actually asked to be guest investigators at the Bell Witch Cave of all places.
Okay.
And if people aren't familiar with the Bell Witch Cave, it was the first documented ghost paranormal experience in the US. Long history. You can look it up. Anyway, we were tasked to camp out in the actual cave all night. And We had some stuff happen. I mean, Lee had more things happen, but we did hear things. We did experience things. And I'll let Lee tell you his experiences that he had. But the bottom line is, when we left the cave, and we were warned not to take anything with us, which we did, and we didn't take any rocks or anything. A lot of people do and have to return them. It was really odd because Lee had some stuff happen at his home afterwards, but we both got really, really sick. Like sick from being in that cave for had to be at least 10 hours, Lee, if not more. Like we were,
Right.
different groups would come in and we do our session, and but we did find some interesting stuff, and Lee can tell you about that.
Well, as far as the evidence that we captured, one of the best things that we captured, I don't know how much you know about the story of Kate Bass, the Bellwitch of Tennessee. She was a shapeshifter, and a lot of reports said that she would shapeshift into a four-legged animal, like a big wolf or a dog. One video that we have, I've got a still camera set up, and it's showing Regina standing there just still as can be, holding a voice recorder. Everybody in there is, when we investigate, everybody sits still. I mean, and if somebody does move, we announce what that is, whether it's a noise or whatever. On the shadow on the wall behind Regina, you could see very clearly a four-legged shadow just go across the screen behind Regina. And we showed it to the people that were actually hosting it, and they're like, just jaw dropped and wow. Another personal experience that I had during that night, I was pissed at Regina and everybody in that cave. Once you walk into the cave, it's got about a corridor, I don't know, about 50 yards long, and it's about this wide, and it's just solid rock all around. While we were in the cave, there was a pretty bad thunderstorm, and we kept everybody in there instead of trying to get back up the hill out. We just kept everybody in the cave during the storm, which knocked trees down, branches down, and everything else, of course. But I went out to the cave entrance to have a cigarette, because they had a little overhang. While I'm standing out there by myself, to the right, I see this. It's almost like a ball of smoke. And it came up the hill in front of me, went across to me, and then down to the river. And I'm just like, stunned. So I scream into the cave, Regina, nothing. Regina, nothing. And I yell in that cave, Regina. And I'm screaming. And like I said, it's all just solid rock. So I'm like, what the hell? So I went in there and I said, Regina, I said, where the hell y'all been? They're like, what are you talking about? I said, you did not hear me screaming? And they said, no, we didn't hear anything. Regina says that they didn't hear anything, although I still wonder about that.
No,
But
there was like 8 of us in the cave, and we did not hear him yelling at all. Nothing.
because being out there by myself, it freaked me out what I saw with this little ball of smoke. So I just wanted somebody else to come out. And she never came. She left me there.
Yep, I did.
Well, I'll tell you one story. I was in Colorado several years ago visiting my family, and outside of Colorado Springs, actually going up the pass, up into the mountains, there is a tourist attraction called Cave of the Winds. It's a natural cave system that was discovered about 100 years ago, and it's been in operation ever since. Now, what I find interesting about these types of situations, like the Bell Witch Cave or old mines, um, these types of places which seem to attract paranormal activity. And what's interesting is this cave, no one ever died in it. No one died. And the native Indians who lived in the area never went in it because it was so deep that there's this area in the very back of the cave where I investigated that is about 200 feet under solid rock, about 1,000 feet or more from the main entrance through a bunch of twists and turns and low openings that you have to crawl through to get to this open chamber at the back. And I can't believe the amount of activity we caught there. Voices telling us to get out, growls, lots of light anomalies captured. One that really fascinates me is I was filming against this rock wall, and these bright lights kept appearing in the cracks of the rocks. And they would come in like this, and then after a moment they'd fade out, and then a minute or so later they would appear in another part of the rock. And I caught all this on video, very clear. There's no insects because back at that part of the cave it's sterile. No animals of any kind. No reflective surfaces because it was limestone, not granite. And yet these lights would appear and disappear. Um, and there was definitely something intelligent in there. So now begs the question, what is it? I investigated a gold mine once too, and it's the same situation. Now there, people died in the mine, so you could explain that. But when you get these locations where people have not died, why are there people or why are there intelligences in the caves? Which leads me to another topic we can talk about another time, leads me to think that we're dealing with elemental type
Mhm.
entities. You know, the old miners used to call them Tommy knockers, and
Mhm.
but it, definitely not human, but can communicate and let you know that they don't want you there.
Right, right. Where we used to have the location, the Opera House here in Tennessee over 7 years. We were told many times by different mediums that there was an elemental there. And it made sense because the basement, half of it was still just regular dirt, and it was located on the Trail of Tears.
Mhm.
So we know that the Cherokee Indians summered there, and I'm sure did lots of ritualistic things that could have brought something to that land. But yeah, we have been told many times that there's an elemental there, and it always tells us to get out. Like it doesn't want us there.
Yeah.
And not to mention, Regina, on the town square, you know, the other piece of history that town had, right?
Oh yeah, it's
Birthplace of the
home of the
KKK.
KKK. So there's
Yeah,
Oh,
so they had a lot of violence and tragedy there with that as well.
mm,
yes,
that's a shame.
yeah,
So it's really a blood-soaked town.
yeah.
Well, we've come to the end of the interview here. Thank you so much both for being here. Regina, I'll start with you. Where can people find your website, or if they want to contact you, what's the best way people can do that?
We have all the social media. We have Facebook, TikTok, Instagram. We do have a website. It's all listed under PPF Investigations. And our contact information is on especially the social media. You can contact us through there. We do occasionally host public events, and we post them on our social media if we do. But we would love for you guys to follow us and watch our journey and interact with us, and we'd love to hear from you. So if you have any questions, just please reach out.
Okay, and Lee?
Just contact Regina. I'm kidding. No, no, no. Just a few of the social platforms. Medics for Paranormal. That's the number four, not spelled out. Medics for Paranormal on Facebook. Also, Medics for Paranormal at gmail.com. And I'm not progressed to TikTok yet because, like I said earlier, I'm not very tech savvy, but I'm trying. Lord knows I try.
Okay.
I'd love to hear from anybody that has any questions, wants to reach out. Um, Something that I'm about to start doing, just to touch on this, and I'd love to hear other experiences. I have a Catholic priest who's a demonologist, a very good friend of mine, and he asked me if I would ever, if needed, accompany on a case. And I said, "What do you mean by that?" He said, "Well, like to be outside just as a medical personnel in case needed." And I told him I would, and that's going to be a new adventure coming. And I've been trying to do a lot of homework and research, so I would
Wow.
love to hear from anybody on that. And the only reason that I'm even considering doing it, the only reason is because these people are desperate and need help, and if I can do anything to help, I want to.
Absolutely.
And
You'll have
if anybody's we're located in the Middle Tennessee area. So if you're ever interested in possibly going on a ghost hunt or just have questions, please reach out to either of us. We're more
Yeah.
than willing to help bring you along or show you the ropes or whatever you need.
okay. Well, again, thank you both so much. This has been a great interview. I know we have a lot more, many stories to tell. I'll have to have you both come back sometime.
I would love that.
Love to.
Okay, well, thank you very much.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
And that wraps up our first show of 2026. Thank you all for tuning in. And you can listen to the audio portion of this on our network radio station, the Paranormal UK Radio Network, at paukradio.com. That is also distributed to all major podcast outlets like Apple, Samsung, you name it. And then, of course, the U2 is here on YouTube under Milyssa Lee's channel, MILYSSALEIGH. So until next time, I hope you all had a wonderful new year, and we're going to be traveling into 2026 and see what happens from there. So until then, you all be good humans, and we'll talk with you soon.